Did you know that the Sorting Hat warned Hogwarts of Voldemort's second rise to power? You see, every year the Sorting Hat actually sings a song. For Harry Potter fans who have only watched the movies, that probably sounds a little crazy, but hear me out. In the books, the Sorting Hat song is an essential part of the sorting ceremony, but the movies removed it entirely. Why does this matter? Because in Harry's 5th year, just a few months after Voldemort's return, the Sorting Hat sang a much different song than usual, warning everyone in the Great Hall of the days to come and advising them to stick together in unity. And it even says that it wishes it didn't have to divide students into different houses. But guess what? This removal isn't the only change from the opening Hogwarts feast in the Order of the Phoenix. This is at the same time that we hear about Dolores Umbridge's plans for Hogwarts, witness how people treat Harry now that he's being defamed by the government, and see Harry and Seamus's argument within Gryffindor Tower. So join me today as I dive deep into the book and movie, finding every single addition, revision, and omission between the two formats. My name is Gibby, and welcome back to episode 64 of Movies vs. Manuscripts Harry Potter Edition. Welcome to Factor Fantasy Harry Potter, where I take you through all the ins and outs of the Wizarding World and the Harry Potter saga. If you're new here, this is my series where I analyze the movies scene by scene and compare them to their corresponding pages in the books, finding all the differences along the way. So if you're a Harry Potter nerd like me, then buckle up as we take on the start of Harry's 5th year, which will definitely be my biggest test yet. I've already done books 1 through 4, but don't worry, you don't need to go back and watch all of the other episodes first. This video is a great place to start, and you can catch up on everything else later. Per usual, I'll cover all the changes across the 4 major categories of characters, timeline, location, and plot. But first, let's refresh our memory on what happened during these scenes in the movie, that way they're fresh on our mind for the analysis. Picking up with where we left off last week, with Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville accompanying Luna Lovegood on the way up to the castle, the movie cuts past the sorting and the feast itself and shows us all the students enjoying dessert before Dumbledore gets up to make his announcements. Before he can get too far into things though, Dumbledore is interrupted by Dolores Umbridge, who makes her way to the front and gives a speech. Afterward, Ron and Harry are confused, but Hermione tells them that this means the Ministry is officially interfering at Hogwarts. The movie then cuts to Harry heading into Gryffindor Tower and walking past Seamus and Dean. He asks them how their holiday was, and Dean says that his was fine, but Seamus's not so much. Harry is curious why, and Seamus gets up, confronting Harry and telling him that his mom didn't want him to come back to Hogwarts because of Harry. Harry gets upset at this and calls Seamus's mother stupid for reading and believing the Daily Prophet, and before a fight can break out, Ron walks in and puts a stop to things by telling Seamus that he believes Harry. Harry then stalks up the stairs to his dorm, and Ron tries to comfort him by saying that Seamus was way out of line, but Harry is mad at everyone and everything and tells Ron he's fine, which obviously is a cue for Ron to leave, so he does. And that's where our scenes end for this episode, as that's the end of Chapter 11, which is titled The Sorting Hat's New Song. In the movie, this is just 5 short minutes of screen time, but there's a lot more detail in the book. So let's dive in by looking at our first 3 categories of character, timeline, and location changes. First up for characters, we're missing Nearly Headless Nick, the Sorting Hat, Parvati Patil and Lavender Brown, the Creevy brothers, Neville, and Ginny. First of all, we'll discuss Nick in the plot changes, but I must say that I forgot how the movies kind of completely cut the ghosts out after a certain point. The books continue to use them to progress the plot and fill in key information, but the movies really don't use them until the Deathly Hallows when Harry visits the Great Lady. As for Parvati Patil and Lavender Brown, they're an interesting case to me. While we definitely see these 2 characters in the movies, they are way different than in the book. It's been a while since I've talked about this in an episode, so let me clear some things up just to refresh us. In the books, Parvati Patil's twin sister Padma is in Ravenclaw, not Gryffindor. I know that sounds crazy to movie fans because we see these twin sisters arm in arm everywhere they go, but in the book, it's actually Parvati and Lavender who are arm in arm. They are inseparable best friends. And on top of this, they might be the most talkative and mentioned side characters in the series. The amount of times that we hear a random side comment from one of them, or they do something in the background, is crazy. If we view the trio, Neville, Ginny, and Luna, as the main 6 characters at Hogwarts, then Parvati and Lavender are similar to Seamus and Dean's role as supporting acts. But in the movie, they get cut quite a lot. Of course, Lavender is in the 6th year a lot because of her relationship with Ron, but people forget that she's been there quite consistently since year 1 in the books. Anyway, as for the Creevey brothers, I wanted to give them a shout out because they are also cut. In the 5th movie, we have a young kid named Nigel who sort of replaces Colin and Dennis Creevey's roles as the youngsters who follow Harry everywhere. But I actually just finished up the full cast version of the Deathly Hallows, and let's just say that my heart feels a certain way about the Creevey brothers, and I wanted to mention them as missing in today's episode. I won't mention them in every episode, but I think they're owed a nod for who they are in the books. If you know, you know. Now, I know I spent more time than usual on characters there, but that's because we actually have no timeline or location changes today, so that makes this part easy. Before we head into our plot changes though, I wanted to remind you that I can't cover the dialogue word for word. Obviously, the movie can't follow things that closely or else it would be 10 hours long. Instead, I'll stick to pointing out the key dialogue changes that affect the plot or character development. However, if you're interested in reliving these moments for yourself in detail, then I'd recommend you check out the audiobooks on Audible. They're a great way to soak up these chapters, and you can follow along with me every episode as I do this series. You can get your first audiobook for free using the link in the description, which helps support the channel at the same time, so it's a win-win. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Jason, Joshua, Timothy, RoboSteve, Drix, Andy, Maha, and the rest of my incredible Patreon and YouTube members who help support the channel every month. Now with that being said, let's hop into our plot changes. To start things off, we're actually going to pick up inside the carriage as our golden trio ride along up to Hogwarts with Neville, Ginny, and Luna. This could have been something that I mentioned in the last episode since we already discussed their initial meeting with Luna, but technically it comes at the very beginning of chapter 11, which is what we're covering today. As Harry sat down inside the carriage, Ginny spoke up and asked the others if they saw Hagrid because she only saw the grubbly plank woman taking the first years to the boats, which normally was Hagrid's job. At this, Luna interjects saying that she'll be quite glad if Hagrid has indeed left, because he wasn't a very good teacher. Immediately, Harry, Ron, and Ginny declare that he is a great teacher, and after staring daggers at Hermione, she joins along with them. Remember, despite Hermione's love for Hagrid, she had said the previous year when Grubbly Plank substituted that the woman was much better at care of magical creatures. Luna then says that in Ravenclaw, they think Hagrid is a bit of a joke, and Ron retorts that they have a rubbish sense of humor then. Luna isn't put off by this comment at all, and instead stares at Ron as if he's a mildly interesting television program. So why was this comment from Luna removed? Well, personally, I think they wanted Luna to come off as odd but not rude. Of course, in the books, after getting to know her, we know that this isn't Luna being rude, but rather her complete lack of a filter. But for a character's introduction into the story in the movie, it probably was smart to remove her insulting Hagrid, as that would have made every Harry Potter fan who hadn't read the books immediately dislike her. But I figured I'd mention this missing bit of dialogue because it is a very different type of introduction to Luna, one that requires us to then warm up to her as the book progresses. Next, the movie omits a few details from the feast and the entire sorting ceremony, as it just cuts to dessert and then Dumbledore's announcements. So let's break this into two different changes. First, we have their arrival. Harry walks through the Great Hall to get to a seat at the Gryffindor table, and as he passes, many students whisper to each other and stare at him. Parvati Patil and Lavender Brown give him a very friendly greeting that suggests that they had just been talking about him before he arrived, and he, Neville, Hermione, and Ron sit down near them, with Ginny having already gone off and sat next to her fourth-year friends. In the movie, we see Harry sitting next to Seamus. Well, not next to him necessarily, since there's a big gap between them, but we see them share a strange look as if Seamus doesn't want to get near him. This doesn't happen in the book, but it's obviously foreshadowing their argument later on. Soon after taking their seats, Hermione asks who the woman is that's next to Dumbledore. After she turns around, Harry tells them that it's the Umbridge woman who works for Fudge, and Hermione is immediately worried with a sneaking suspicion as to why she's there. But she doesn't have time to fill Harry and Ron in, because right at that moment, Professor McGonagall enters the Great Hall escorting the new batch of first years to be sorted. Which brings us to the second part of this omission, and that is of course the sorting itself. To be honest, the sorting of the students themselves is not that important. As far as I'm aware, there are no crucial names that are introduced here. So why does it matter that the sorting was removed? Well, because we miss the Sorting Hat's song, which is the title of the whole chapter. For Harry Potter fans who know the books, you know that each year the Sorting Hat sings a song, which usually just describes the qualities of each Hogwarts house and its duty to sort people into them. Every year the song is slightly different, but that's the main gist of the message annually. This year, however, was different. Instead of its usual lyrics, the Sorting Hat told them the story of the 4 founders and how they split up, with Slytherin eventually leaving after years of fighting and turmoil. It describes how dark days are coming and they must stick together and be friends with everyone, regardless of their house. And it even confesses that although it is condemned to sort them one by one, it wishes that it didn't have to split up the students into houses at all. Sorry, I'm not going to sing it for you here, so you're just gonna have to go read it yourself if you want the full song, or listen to it on Audible. But you get the main message. This sets an ominous tone for the students who are not used to this type of song, and as everyone knows, Dumbledore and Harry Potter are claiming that the Dark Lord has returned, but nobody knows what to believe because the news and the government say that he hasn't returned. Hermione wonders aloud if the Sorting Hat has ever sung a song like this before, and a nearly headless Nick leaning through Neville confirms that it has. The sorting then commences and they go quiet, but afterward, once everyone's been sorted and the feast begins, Hermione asks Nick again about the Hat's song. He tells them that the Hat feels it is its duty to give warnings before times of great danger for the school, and the advice is always the same: stand together, be strong from within. He then goes on to guess that it knows something is happening because it lives in Dumbledore's office, and maybe picks up on pieces of news or information here or there. Hermione tries to keep the conversation going to find out exactly when the last warning song was, but Ron accidentally insults nearly headless Nick by reminding him that he's a ghost, and Nick floats off. It's little moments like these that help round out Hogwarts and their school life, and I'm sad that we never got them in the movie. So far, the movie has removed them as prefects, and now the Sorting Hat's new song, plus the ghosts, and as we know, there's much more to come throughout the year. Next up, we have Umbridge's speech, which, in general, is quite similar between the book and movie. Like I mentioned in my disclaimer, I don't go into all the bits of dialogue because that would take forever. There are slight differences in the speech and in Hermione's response, but nothing of note. Umbridge interrupts Dumbledore, gives her annoying speech, which a lot of students ignore and just talk amongst themselves, and then Hermione tells the boys that this means the Ministry is interfering at Hogwarts. Oh, and at one point, Parvati Patil insults Umbridge's cardigan to Lavender, and they both break out into giggles. Again, Parvati and Lavender might be 2 of the most involved side characters in the books, just for small one-off comments like that. Anyway, after the speech is done and Dumbledore finishes his announcements, Hermione reminds Ron that it's their duty as prefects to lead their first years to the dorms, and so they leave Harry and wrangle the younger kids. Harry smiles at the first years who are passing by and gets some scared looks and whispering in return. Obviously, they've heard about this Harry Potter from their parents, who probably read the Daily Prophet. Resigned to the fact that he will never be looked at the same since bringing Cedric's body back earlier that year, Harry runs off through some hidden passages and gets to the dorms early, avoiding everybody that he can. Unfortunately, because he went alone, he never got the new password, and the fat lady won't let him inside. Thankfully though, Neville comes to save the day shortly after and tells him that for once he knows the password. It's Mimbulus Mimbletonia, which is the same name as his new plant. That's right, that's the same plant that shot goop all over Harry a few hours prior. It makes me wonder who gets to set the passwords. Anyway, after this, Harry and Neville enter Gryffindor Tower and head up to their dorms, which is a small little change here. Harry doesn't awkwardly walk through the common room with a bunch of people sitting there staring at him. It's pretty much empty, and he and Neville just go to their room. And this is where we have our argument between Seamus and Harry. Harry and Neville enter their dorm, and Seamus and Dean are already in there talking, but they get quiet once they see Harry. Once again, Harry has the distinct impression that he was the topic of conversation. Similar to the movie, Harry asks how their holiday was, and Dean mentions that Seamus's wasn't so great. Neville asks him why, and Seamus, after taking a while to reply, says that his mom almost didn't let him return. And this is where we have a key difference in tone. Although they are just words on a page, and I don't know exactly how Seamus's tone would have been, it comes across as way more apprehensive than the movie shows. The movie makes Seamus so straightforward about it that he stands up and faces Harry almost as if he's confronting him, as if he's angry at Harry. But in the book, he's slow to reply and carefully measures his words one by one. It seems almost as if Seamus is undecided on the matter. He's upset that his mother almost didn't let him come, but he isn't taking it out on Harry yet. Instead, after Harry gets mad and tries to lay in bed and close his curtains, Seamus looks at him and asks what happened that night when Harry brought Cedric's body back. And it isn't accusatory, but rather nervous and eager. It makes me think that if Harry would have replied calmly and explained everything to Seamus, then he would have believed him. But instead, this is the year of angry Harry, and he tells Seamus to go read the prophet like his mom. I will say, Harry in the book doesn't say "stupid mother." He thinks that in his head, but he doesn't say it out loud. But even without calling Seamus's mom stupid, Seamus is set off and makes his decision that Harry must be insane. Harry then tells Seamus to go and ask McGonagall to switch rooms if he doesn't want to be near Harry, and Seamus says that he might just do that. It's around this time when Ron enters, and we have another small change, which is that Ron is a prefect and has a bit more power. Plus, he's larger than everyone else, so he's a bit more intimidating. But the intimidating part to Seamus isn't so much Ron's height as it is the fact that Ron can give him a detention. You see, when Ron walks in, he asks what's going on, and Seamus says that Harry is having a go at his mother, and Ron is shocked and says Harry would never do that. They met Seamus's mom at the World Cup the past year, and they liked her. But then Harry says that Seamus and his mom have been reading and believing the Daily Prophet, and things click for Ron, who finally understands what's going on. Seamus then calls Harry a madman, and Ron says that's out of line, to which Seamus says that Ron is a madman too if he believes anything Harry says. And it's at this insult that Ron tells Seamus that unfortunately for him, he's a prefect. So unless Seamus wants detention, he better watch his mouth. For a moment, Seamus looks as though detention might be worth it, but then decides against it. And now we have our final change of this moment and of the episode, which is of course the removal of Neville's courage in this moment. Per usual, Neville gets the short end of the stick in the movie, but in the book, he stands up for Harry. When Ron looks around the dorm and asks if anyone else has a problem with Harry, Dean says that his parents are muggles, so they don't know about anything that's going on. And then after Seamus insults Dumbledore, Neville speaks up and says that his gran says the Daily Prophet is rubbish and that she's canceled their subscription. He adds that his gran has always believed you-know-who would return, and if Dumbledore says he has, then he has. Harry felt an instant rush of gratitude for Neville, who rarely stood up and opposed anybody ever. But as we know, this is the first of many times that Neville will begin to come into his own and make his gran proud. I mention this as a change not only because it's an obvious omission of Neville's courage to defend Harry, but also because we don't even get this from anyone in the movie. Of course, Ron defends Harry, but in the movie, they're standing in the common room with loads of other people watching. Specifically, we see Fred and George sitting there as all of this goes down, and they don't say a word, which is very unlike them. In the books, Fred and George would beat anyone up for Harry. So this is a great example of the butterfly effect for plot changes. If you're going to move Seamus and Harry's argument into the common room where everyone else is watching, you also need to rewrite the responses from people, as fellow students like Fred and George would probably have come to Harry's defense instead of just watching. It's a domino effect of changes, and if they would have just kept it in the dorms like the book says, then this wouldn't have been a problem. But I guess they wanted to portray Harry as a true outsider in that year, and like all the students were against him, even the people he was friends with. I don't know. Let me know what you think about this moment in the comments below. And that wraps up all the changes for today's episode. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out the playlist in the description or on my channel to catch up on all the episodes that you might have missed so far. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.